Welcome to another episode of Let's Give It with Seven podcast, man. Today I have my guest that I'm going to allow him to introduce himself, but the reason why I have him here today is because I've looked through his Instagram and I've looked through his information and just kind of what he stood for, and I was like, man, that dude is dope, and one day I would like to kind of create the same content that you have. The way that I'm segueing it and kind of going my path looks differently, but hopefully one day I kind of get to the aspect of it. But before we get into any of the questions, I would like for you to introduce yourself and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Alrighty, so my name is Andy Abraham. I'm the founder of Black Noise. We started the brand a year and a half ago. It's located in Phoenix, Arizona. I am 25 now. So the purpose of the brand is solely trying to empower people, especially black people in our communities, and just creating a safe haven for them to be able to be inspired, and in order to be inspired, not only be inspired, but to be able to get the content they need to make them a better person.
Okay, so let's talk about Black Noise. Okay, so anybody can have an idea, right? Like, everybody has a bunch of ideas and what they want to do, what they want their life to look like. But how did you take your idea from just being an idea to actually becoming like action, to actually becoming a thing, to actually become a content? What did that process look like for you?
I think it starts with the why. I think my why was community, so I focused on the community aspect of things. So then, yeah, man, I just took advantage of every opportunity God gave me when it comes to the people that He put in my life that had different talents.
Yeah.
And so I used that and their talents and their gifts in order to be able to create a brand that empowered, our people, and a brand that was uplifting, positive, but dope at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, just using the people around me to be able to make the dream come true.
Okay, so you hit on like your why. Can you kind of hit more on that and why that's so important? Because a lot of times, if you don't have that why, it's so much easier to give up and just kind of go back to your old ways if you don't have that why. What's the importance of your why?
I think the importance of the why is honestly, it builds a strong foundation. It's something that you go back to when you feel lost,
right? When
you feel tired, when you feel like you're not making any progress, when you feel like impact is not being made, when you feel like people are not supporting you, or people are not believing in you. So when you have that foundation is your fuel. I try to always go back to that why, which is people, which is community, which is empowering, which is inspiring. So anytime I feel off, or anytime I feel like I'm not myself when I'm creating something, I go back to the why and the foundation and be like, yo, is what you're creating matching up with your foundation? And if it doesn't, that's the reason why you're feeling a certain way, And along that line, it teaches you that when you're struggling with certain things as you're building, and if it doesn't line up with your why, that means that you're being prideful about a certain area in your life that has nothing to do with you. So then now you're stressed about things that have nothing to do with you because it doesn't line up with your foundation.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So yeah, that's really it. It's just that's everything. It's from down up. That's how it flows. So I try to make sure that everything I do comes from my foundation, my why.
So a lot of people say, oh, you have to have that why this, why that, right?
Yeah.
But for you actually live by it, and you were able to show that just recently because you were able to give you said Black Noise has only been around for less than 2 years, right?
Yep.
But just recently you were able to give your first $600 to a nonprofit organization that empowers Black women.
Yes.
Can you tell me how did that feel like for you, and why is that so important for you to keep true to your why and actually go back and help other people?
Man, it felt amazing because you really see. You really see what your community is about, taking the opportunity. So a little bit about the opportunity we got to give. We got to donate $600 to a nonprofit. Again, locally in Phoenix, Arizona. So shout out Phoenix, Arizona. A lot of people don't think we exist, but we do, and there are creators out here. But I think the opportunity was this. We created custom masks, and we said, hey, we're gonna donate 100% of the proceeds to a nonprofit in Arizona, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep it local. So we're gonna hand deliver every order.
That's
so if you
dope.
think about it, so $600 worth of orders at $15 a mass, that's a lot of mass that you're
That's
doing, you know.
yeah.
So, but the dope thing is you get to interact with the people in your community, which I do apologize. I know it's COVID-19. I was masked up, so you guys don't have to worry. But the opportunity of just like getting to see who's in your community, getting to see who believes in you, getting to see who's supporting your vision is just amazing. That's the amazing part. Getting to sit down and have a conversation with somebody for 20 minutes that's your first time meeting.
Yeah,
it's super dope. And so that was the most amazing part of the whole giveaway process. But at the same time, the other amazing dope part of it is being able to invest in somebody in your community, and being able to empower people in your community and giving people in your community the opportunity to be and to perform at a high level, and just really believing in other people, because sometimes we tend to not tell somebody, hey, you're doing a great job, hey, I believe in you, hey, you're going places, hey, let me know if you need anything. We shun away from giving credit where credit is due.
Right.
So I wanted to take a step further and be like, yo, like, not only do I believe in you, but I'm gonna go ahead and invest in you. You know, so I want to see you prosper. And that was truly it. And I think we understood that we can do this, and we can continue to do this because we had a community backing, and we had people that supported us, and we had people that donated to us. So we knew that, hey, there's so much people that believe in us that it would be unjust, or we would be doing the people that we believe in disservice if we didn't invest in them. So it's just a healthy circle of like, hey, you have your community that believes in you, and now you have to believe in somebody else, and you have to invest in somebody else. So that was an awakening or revelation that I think God put on there, because it was it was meant to be a one-time thing, but now that we see that, hey, there's people that believe in the cause, now we can continue to do it moving forward, every 6 months or every year or whatever the case is. So that's it.
So I want to actually kind of touch, how do you go from, because like I feel like a lot of people kind of use the mass situation to profit off of it, but you chose, like, because you could have easily profited like pretty nicely if you would have kept it all, because like everybody's looking for a mask and yours looked really dope. So anyway, how do you go from, because a lot of people use opportunities, right, to benefit them, right, but instead you took it and turned it around and used it to help other people. Like, why is that so important to you?
So I'm gonna be real with you, like, the mask thing was never supposed to happen. That's why it happened so late. Yeah. Because I was never planning on creating masks, because, like, going back to it, I didn't want to profit off of a situation or a pandemic that was causing deaths to to many lives. But when you go back and you look at the foundation, which is community, which is people, and which is empowering, I was like, hey, if I decide to do this, this is how I can get my community involved, right? Because they're donating, right? And they know it's going to a good cause. People, I'm meeting people, every day and things like that, and I'm speaking life into people, and they're speaking life into me. And then last but not least, empowering. Now I'm creating and I'm creating an opportunity and giving somebody else an opportunity to flourish. So literally it just clicked. So when I created the mask, it was like, hey, if you donate X amount of proceeds, then what you're doing is lining up with your foundation. And so that's how we got to the part where we're like, okay, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna hit it hard. Which the really amazing experience of the whole thing was, I tell people this, and I love my community, and that's why I always tell people, like, I can't even believe it, and I'm super grateful, and I thank God and everybody that supports the brand. Like, we had a goal of to raise $500 in 10 days. Right. We did $750 in 2. Dang. So that shows you that really shows you the power of believing in your community, and your community believing in your cause. And that you can, anytime you invest in people, that there's always going to be a significant return. And so we understood that, and we lived by it. And so we did what we did.
So on your Instagram page, you're always talking about a lot about empowering Black women. Could you hit a little bit on why that's so important to you and what that looks like in your life?
Yeah, so I was the reason why it's, empowering women and empowering black women is so important to me because one, I 100% believe women are the future.
Right.
So let's get that out of the way. And two, I was raised by a single mom, and so she just had those traits that I don't know how she did it, raising three kids on her own, in the U.S. On a very very low budget, So yeah, and it's just amazing to see how she was able to maximize her environment and how she was able to maximize the opportunity that being in the United States gave her in order to raise her kids to the best of her ability, And she just constantly throughout my youth, she just spoke life to me, and she just always told me that be about people,
Right.
be about people, be about community, love the people around you, take care of the people around you, give, so that's just things that she really really instilled in me that that kept me on track and kept me like focused throughout my ages and throughout my young adult and things like that.
So also on your Instagram, you have a quote that says "Empowering tomorrow's black."
Yep.
What does that mean to you? What's your goal when people see that? What do you want them to think when they see it?
Honestly, empowering tomorrow's black is just letting people know that, hey, that you have a platform that's going to invest in you so you can do better tomorrow.
Right.
And that we're not just here to take your money, but we're here to provide you content that you can apply towards your life, or that you can be inspired by, and that you can think outside of the box and be able to be who God created you to be. So that's what inspiring tomorrow's black is. And just honestly, just going back to like making sure that people have at least one. It's important, like people don't understand, it's important that you have positive content, positive followers, positive people, positive messages that you're hearing and listening to, and that you're taking in every day, because you can't be at your best if you're listening to random things that have nothing to do with God's purpose for your life,
Right.
So if my platform is that place that you go to get knowledge and information and to be empowered, so then tomorrow you can be the best version of you, then we've done our job, and that we've empowered you and that we've equipped you. Or if you need a manufacturer, or if you need a photographer, or if you need X, Y, and Z, then we are able to provide you that, so then tomorrow you can be better than you were today.
Yeah.
So that's the empowering part of it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the empowering.
Okay.
Black.
That's dope. So let's take Black Noise away from the scenario here, right? Who is Andy? What does that look? Who is he? What's something that people don't know about you?
Yo, honestly, so I'm super private. That's one thing,
Yes, sir.
And the reason why I'm that is because I believe I really perform at a high level when I'm private, and that I get the time to think and reflect and be able to create what people need me to create. But I enjoy basketball. That's my favorite sport. I play basketball. I read a lot. I listen to podcasts, and I run. Which all of these sound super super boring and lame.
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
Yeah, honestly, I just do everything revolving around growing, so then I can grow the brand and make sure that the brand is always creating at its best.
So why is being private so like important to you? Because a lot of people feel like to be successful, you have to be out there. Like you have to be on the front line. You have to be. People just have to see you all the time.
Yeah.
How true is that, and how untrue is that at the same time?
I think is, if you want your foundation to be a healthy foundation, based off of like empowering people and based off of community work and things like that, then you have to be able to take the time out of your life in order to like maximize who you are and what you do. So for me is like if you look at, if I'm using like scenarios like in the Bible, like Jesus would always go away for like 40 days, or he would go to the mountaintop to fast, or he would like you have a lot of characters in the Bible that would go away in order to come back and be at their best. So I understood the importance of fasting from the world, or fasting from partying, or fasting from girls and things like that, so I can perform at at my highest, you know. And I think I'm not saying you should always do it, but I'm saying like if you based what you do off of, hey, I want to make sure that I help my community to the best I can, then the more time you spend by yourself, the more you can create at a high level.
Yeah.
So that's really it, honestly. But besides that, it just helps me produce. I can produce at my highest when I'm not distracted by partying and drinking and smoking and girls and all these different things. I'm God, and plus it's a, you know, it's me and God time, you know.
Right.
So that's going back to like devotions, you know. Like I have to be able to hear God in order for me to keep working and in order for me to be like, hey God, is this right or is this wrong, you know?
Right.
And so if I'm not doing things like that, then I'll just make stuff because society or because of culture or because of my friends or because I can make more money. I'll do it based off of that. But if I stay close to God, then God can tell me, hey, you know, just do this and let me worry about the rest, you know.
Yeah, so I really like the fact that you're so open about your belief in God, bro. Like, honestly, like, not a lot of people are really open about it. Like, some people try, because for some reason God isn't cool or something like that, and they feel like, oh, well, if I'm father, for me, I'm a believer and I'm a Christian, and so, like, again, a lot of people will get turned off by that title in a sense. Why is your belief so important to you, and how has that helped guide you to be where you're at? Because you're very vocal about it, which I like. I love. I think that's the dopest thing. Just be open about your religion and not be ashamed about it either. How has your why is your religion so important to you, and how has that helped shape you to become who you are today?
Yo, so I've always, good question. I've always been raised in the church, but I think the older I got, like I knew that I had to be more devoted to my faith than anything, you know,
Right.
and I had to be able to hear God, and because I truly believe, man, like everything you do, everything you have, everything you become is from God, you know.
Right.
But if you can't hear God, then how are you supposed to become the person He called you to be, you know? And so, just like the prodigal son, you know, like we always go through a period of our life where we abandon God or we go do our own thing and we try the worldly thing and we do those things and then you get tired, you know. And when you get tired, yo, trust me, when you get tired and you don't know who you are and you don't know where you're going in life and you're losing purpose and you need rest, I realized that I always had to go back to God, you know. And I'm like, yo, like what is the point of running away, coming back, running away, coming back, running away, coming back, when if I just stay still and I focus on my field, and I plow then and I focus on me and God, then everything that I wanted, everything I want to do for people, everything I want to do for my community, everything I want to do for the people around me can be done if I listen to God, you know. But if I'm out here doing my own thing and trying to, you know, get fame or whatever the case is, then you know, it might happen, but it won't produce any fruits, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's really it, you know. So my faith is a big thing to a big reason why I'm so like devoted in community, you know.
Yeah.
Because that's what Jesus walked, you know. That's what Jesus lived. He was always about, he would go into a room and talk to them, and not he wouldn't go in there as a figure or as a status or as a, you know, son of God. He would go in there as your friend, you know. He would go in there as your cousin. He would go in there as your partner. He made you feel, you know, he made you felt welcome, you know. He made you feel like you can be who you were created to be, you know. He spoke life into you, you know.
Yeah.
So in order for me to be able to do that for the people around me, I have to be able to have that one-on-one time with God, so then I can come out here and have that one-on-one time with my people and things like that, you know. So that's my faith, you know. So it's important, you know. It's a big factor to why I do what I do.
You also, so just recently you hit on a point that talking about the importance of being where you're supposed to be, right? So now for us who are religious, let's take it back to even a Bible story with David and Bathsheba. He was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. He was supposed to be out with his fellow fighting in the war with his people, but he decided to stay back. And him not being where he was supposed to be and where God wanted him to be at the time, he ended up making a mistake and things didn't go so well. So why is that so, like, why is go ahead.
I need it. My bad. I don't know if it's this, but it's making my nose super runny up. And my lips are getting all dry. At least it's still running.
Yeah, hey.
You can cut up the parts, right?
No, yeah, well, that's not as the videographer.
I'm like, can I stop? I'm like, my lips are drying up.
Hey, can we get a timeout, please? Like,
but yeah, you're asking super good questions. These are not the same questions we were talking about earlier.
Well, the first ones were just, I was trying to warm up to get to where I really wanted to get to, and I was like, yo, you started talking about God. I was like, bro, this is going in the right direction.
All right, come on, let's make this happen.
So, why is it so important for you to be where you're supposed to be, and what does that even look like?
Man, I think the importance of focus is a big thing, you know. And there's a dope quote by Eric Thomas that says, at the end of your feelings there's nothing, but at the end of every principle there's a promise, you know. And so I think that has a lot to do with faith, you know. Right. Faith is principle based, you know. Faith is not seeing something but continuing to do something every day consistently, hoping for a return on the investment, you know. So my relationship with God, and how me focusing on what God needs me to do, or what He needs me to, who He needs me to become, is important. Because if I'm too busy, if I'm supposed to be reading the Word, or if I'm supposed to be listening to a podcast, or if I'm supposed to be, you know, on a phone call with somebody, but I'm too busy doing all these different things that have nothing to do with the purpose that God has in front of me, then it's going to be very, very difficult for me, or for God to use me, you know, to the fullest extent, you know. And so just constantly making sure that you're in tune with God, and that you're plowing your field. And when I say plowing your field, people don't understand what I mean by that a lot of the times. What plowing means is every man, every woman has a job, you know. God gives you a certain amount. It's almost like talents. God gives you something that you're supposed to cultivate, that you're supposed to be able to make nothing out of something, you know.
Right.
And so every day you wake up, you get the opportunity to cultivate what God put in front of you, you know. So that's why I don't look at my clothing line. Like I tell people, I don't design clothes, I tell black stories. So in a sense, because it's so much more than, you know, fabrics and designs and cool clothes, because you're actually helping people's lives transform and be, you know, being better, you know. But if I'm not cultivating my field, and if I'm not, you know, working on my field constantly to be able to reap something to give to somebody else, then what am I doing, you know? So going back to, you know, your focus always has to shift back to, hey, my field, what does God need me to do today? Whose life does God need me to speak into? What does God need me to post? When I'm posting, you know, quotes and Twitter quotes that I've personally created, if I'm not in tune with God, I wouldn't be able to say what I say, you know. If I'm not in tune with God, I wouldn't be able to interview people and ask the questions that need to be asked. If I'm not in tune with God, I wouldn't even be able to put a photo shoot together and get the exact image that I see in my mind, you know. So it's always going back to the creator, you know. I truly believe the thing about God, what makes God so beautiful, like He always creates in order to fix something, you know. So every time when you have a talent, when you have a gift, or you have an opportunity, your gift is not for you, your gift is for other people. It's supposed to be given. So God gives you something so you can fix somebody else's life, you know. And so, but if I'm not tending my field, then the opportunity that's in that field, I can't turn it into an opportunity to fix or bless somebody else, you know. So that's how I really look at it. So I have to tend my field. I have to stay close to God. I have to be able to hear what God says. I have to be able to be about people, you know. I have to be able to make sure that people come first, not profit, not opportunities that somebody else can give me over somebody else, not if you can sell your shirts for $50 and make more money. Not that, but just understanding what the people around you need, understanding what the people in your community need, you know. And so that's important. You can't get that if you're not centered, if you're not religious, if you're not centered, or if you are, you know, faith-based, if you're not looking to the source in order to guide your steps, you know. So that's really it.
It's crazy you said that, because like for me, even when it comes to this podcast, this whole thing was created, like you're saying, because I believe the same thing too. Like I think people's testimonies really, honestly isn't even for you. It really is for the next person.
Yep.
For you to be able to tell them a story that you went through to overcome it. So that's why it's so important to understand who you are in Christ. Because once you do that, then no matter what storm you go through, like Jesus never said that. Oh, I'm gonna get you through it. No, he's like, I'm gonna walk you through a storm, but you're not gonna get like affected. So like you're gonna still face those bad things and those pain and those heartaches, but God's gonna allow you to walk through it and be a better version of yourself at the end of the day. And so when it comes to testimonies, I feel like it's not really for you. Sometimes it's really for the other people. And so with this podcast, man, when I felt like God called me to create it, it was almost like, yo, like. That's another thing I want to talk about. Like, it's almost like, let's talk about the talents. Like, you use talents, like people having talents. What is the issue of, we can even use the Bible story of the 5 talents, where the king goes and gives one person, what was it, like 1 talent, the other person 5, and the other person 10, right?
Yeah.
And then the 10, we know he doubles it. The one with the 5, he doubles it. The 1, he ends up like burying it because he was scared of the king, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times in our society, we look at someone who has 10 talents, right? And we're like, man, that's where we should be. But we forget that we only have 1, and we're supposed to double that 1 before we can get to that 10. Because a lot of times our mind, our society, we just look at people, and we're like, dang, like, I want to be there. Like, it should be easy to get there. No, you don't know what they've had to go through. Some might have done it in the wrong way. Some might have done it the right way. What's important to understanding your talents and just being able to use what you have in the moment and not looking so far into like what someone else has and what you don't have, and what's important just to understand what you have and using it the best of your ability. And how has that looked like for you?
I'm gonna answer that question a little bit. I'm gonna go back a little bit to going back to what we were talking about a little bit ago, which is super dope. So I don't know if do you know the story about Samson, right?
Yeah.
So I think my biggest fear is, and that's why I always have a healthy, close relationship with God, is because my biggest fear is when you look at the story of Samson, like he knew since birth that he was chosen by God to do a certain thing, But the crazy thing is, he wasted all his life and he didn't do anything till the end of his life,
Yeah.
And so somebody once said that Samson did more at his death than he did his whole life. Yeah. And then somebody else said, with Samson, a strong man became weak. A strong man became weak. I forgot what is it. Dang, a strong man became weak. But anyways, it shows how when God gives you these talents or God gives you these gifts and you don't cultivate them, that things like that could happen. So my thing is, like, I don't want to wait till I'm 30. I don't want to wait till I'm 40. I don't want to wait till I'm 50 to look back and say, dang, or when I pass away and I die, whatever the case is, and God's like, look, you had the opportunity to impact millions and millions of lives, but you wanted to wait till you're 60, 50 to finally, walk in my footsteps, So that was my biggest thing, was like listening, like hearing Samson's stories and knowing the potential that he had to impact, impact his community, but he decided to waste it on drinking and girls and all these things. So, a strong man became a slave. His strength turned into weakness. Yeah. Because he didn't cultivate it, because he was too busy doing things that had nothing to do with his purpose. Yeah. So for me, it's like I don't want to be that person that, didn't dedicate his life to God so God can use him in order to change the world, Yeah. So that's really it. That's one of my favorite stories when it comes to in the Bible, just being able to, like, I try to learn from my environment and the things that happen around me. But to answer your question, your talents, no, I forgot the question.
No, yeah, so basically, the importance of you understanding your talent instead of looking to other people and seeing that they have 10, and they're saying, oh man, like, we envy those people. We're like, oh, why don't I have 10? It's like, no, God gave you 1 so you can cultivate. Like you're saying, we have to cultivate. It's almost like a seed. You don't plant it one day and then a tree comes out of it. No, it takes time. You have to water it and you have to take care of it the proper way. So what does that look like for you in your life, and how have you decided to like use your 1 talent and then multiply it in a sense?
I think a lot of factors, but I think the main factor is going back to the why, Right. Going back to the why, going back to your foundation, why you started something, why you're doing something, why you're pursuing somebody, why you want to get into a relationship. Like, if you go back to the why, you'll find out. So if I'm looking at what somebody else is doing, like, if I'm looking at what somebody else is doing and I'm upset by what somebody else is doing, or I'm jealous or I'm envious by somebody else is doing, that means, one, I'm not investing enough time in what I'm doing, and two, that means that I'm not confident in the vision that God gave me for my field. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me. If I'm not, that's, and going back to the field, you know, it's like you have to. That's why, like I said, you gotta keep your head down, and you gotta keep plowing.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta keep working at what God and put in front of you. You can't look up. You can't wander. You can't be, oh, what's going on over there? Oh, that's flashy, or what, you know. You have to be able to keep your head down and like cultivate. And that's why, going back to like having tunnel vision and having your why, because when you have your why and you're secure in your identity in God and what He called you to be, then you perform at a level that everybody else around you is what everybody else around you is doing is irrelevant. Mm-hmm. You know. So I'm not worried about somebody that works a 9 to 5 that makes more than me.
Yeah.
Because that has nothing to do with my vision.
Yeah.
You know, for the vision that God has for my life. You know, I'm not worried about a different brand that's focused on doing something else. I'm not worried about what this person is doing, because I'm invested in so much of growing as a man of God and being able to be a leader, that everything else is either positive motivation, mm-hmm. or is something that has nothing to do with me, so I don't focus on it, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I think, you know, it goes back to, that's what I'm saying, it goes back to your why, and it goes back to your identity. Like, are you secure in your identity? Because if you're secure in your identity, then you're not worried about I'm not worried about what other guys are doing, you know, with women. I'm not saying, oh damn, I could be out there doing the same thing. Oh damn, I should be out there doing this.
Right.
Because it has nothing to do with where God has taken me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to the point in your life where you figure out, yo, this has nothing to do with what God has me doing, or where God has taken me. Mm-hmm. Everything else is irrelevant.
Yeah.
I don't focus on certain things, because it really doesn't have nothing to do with God, with what God has planned for my life. So I can't get mad, you know. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't. And when I was younger, that used to be something when I was like, oh man, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta dress better, I gotta be here, I gotta be at the parties, I gotta be messing with girls, I gotta be sleeping with girls. But the older I got and the closer I got to God, I started to realize, like, all of this stuff that people long for it's not important, because it has nothing to do with what God wants to do in your life. Yeah. You know.
So let's hit a little bit deeper into the whole being secure in who you are yourself. Again, like, and for me, I've always been super insecure about who I am and what I look like, how I dress, like, yada yada yada. Yeah. But I think it was when I finally was like, man, like, why do I even feel that way? And finding my security through Christ and who He says I am, not what the world says I am. Because if you're so busy wondering what the world's saying about you, oh man, you're screwed right there. Because you'll never be able to satisfy everyone in this world. Mm-hmm. And so, how important is your secure, like being secure in yourself and who you are and like what you believe in?
Super, super important. I think two things. I think your identity in Christ is important,
mm-hmm.
and I think your identity is in the purpose that God created for you. You know, if that makes sense.
Well, so like when you say purpose, like a lot of people say, how do I know my purpose though?
You know your purpose by knowing the person that created you. You know, and that goes back to identity.
Okay,
you know?
Cool. Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people do not invest enough time in themselves. You know, they don't center themselves enough. Like the amount, like if you think about it, you have to be able to put hours and hours in yourself in order for you to be effective for the people around you. You know, in order for you to be effective in a relationship. Like a lot of people know how to get married, but a lot of people don't know how to stay married. A lot of people know how to make money, but a lot of people don't know how to save money. Yeah. You know, so there's always a disconnect in what we decide to do, mm-hmm. because we always look at the now, we don't look at the long term. You know, right. Like I know I can get married. Right. You know, I definitely do that. I know a lot of people that would marry me, you know. But now, when I stay married, that's a different story, you know.
Right.
And that's just because, as a man right now, and my ambitions and what God is doing in my life, I wouldn't be able to dedicate a certain amount of time into, you know, the opposite sex or my girlfriend or my wife, you know. And you have to get to a point in your life where you've decided, I'm okay with following what God needs me to do. I'm okay with being single for a long time, so mm-hmm. God can use me to do X, Y, and Z. I'm okay with, you know, I'm okay with doing a 9 to 5. Like, and a lot of people are not so invested in themselves to know what is for them and what is not. Yeah. You know, So when you're secure in yourself and you're secure in your relationship with God and you're secure in your purpose, you just certain things don't upset you, you know. Certain things don't certain things don't make you mad, certain things don't make you jealous, certain things don't, you know, because you're like, yo, I know what God wants to do in my life and I'm confident that it's going to happen, and you're just truly focused on that. So I think and I think that going back to investing time with God, man, like you have it can't just be a Sunday thing. A lot of people get that twisted. A lot of people go to church on Sunday looking cute, looking beautiful, taking selfies and stuff like that. But then the rest of the week, you know, they're doing crazy stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And then you expect God to like bless you, or you expect God to all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, you're the chosen one, you're the next David. David was in the field tending sheep at like 12, you know?
Sheesh.
And it's crazy when you look at all these stories, and then you look at Joseph, how he was sold into slavery, but at the same time he was still serving. He was serving Job when the plague happened and God literally ripped him of everything. He was still serving. He still had faith. He still focused on what was in front of him and what God was doing and what God promised him, you know.
Right.
And that's the amazing thing about these stories in the Bible, you know. It's God is always telling you, like, I'm here.
Right.
I'm not there. I'm not over here. I'm here. You have to stay in there long enough. You have to stay in there long enough. You have to believe that if I say you're gonna get married, you're gonna get married, and stop trying to force relationships and stop trying to. You're upset because people don't like you, but maybe I made them not like you because I have somebody else better for you. You know.
Yeah.
But we're not looking at it that way. We're looking at, maybe this person doesn't like me because I'm skinny, or maybe this person doesn't like me because I'm black. Maybe this person doesn't like me because I'm tall. Maybe this person doesn't like me because I don't have enough money. But when you're cultivating your field, you're not worried about who's liking you. You know, you're worried about cultivating your field, and then when God sees that you've worked your field long enough, He's going to send you somebody else that's been working their field long enough, and now you have two people who, you know, made for purpose. You know, made to be together. But if you're not focusing on what God wants you to do, yo, like life gonna be challenging, and life is not gonna make sense because you feel like there's something wrong with you. Yeah. But there's not something wrong with you. There's something wrong with the steps that you're deciding to take. You know.
And there's this void that I don't think anybody but God can fill. And I think as human beings, we're always chasing that that space that's so empty that we feel like, man, like I need to do something. I need what? Like there's only one thing, and that's just my belief. I don't know what everybody else believes or whatever, but like there's only literally one thing in this entire world that could ever fill that emptiness that you feel like, because you could like, or else you would have billionaires killing themselves or like committing suicide, or people who have everything that they ever need committing suicide, because at the end of the day there's this void that if you don't have it, like if you don't have it filled, then you will never ever be satisfied. And so
100%, I totally agree. You know, and it's your job on a daily basis to figure out what God wants to do with that void. You know. Yeah. And you know, somebody once said somebody said that, you know, how can you ask God for peace but not have room in your heart for it? You know. So things like that is something that you got to be able to figure out yourself on a daily basis with your walk with God. It's like I told people this. You can go the rest of your life without praying, and that'll be fine as long as you're able to hear God's voice and you're able to hear the purpose that God has for your life. You know, but there's no way you can do that without praying.
I was about to say, how do you know?
Do that? So, but that's the point. It's like a lot of people think you gotta do all these things. You gotta go to church. You gotta pray 7 days a week. It's not that. When God speaks, it's on the daily random things that you're doing throughout the day that God is talking to you. Yo, don't be doing this. Yo, don't go here. Yo, don't be listening to this. Yo, don't hang out with this girl. Yo, don't do this. But if you're too busy, you know, in a different headspace, and you're too busy trying to impress people, you're too busy trying to get a lot of Instagram likes, and you're too busy trying to, you know, buy the next pair of then you're too busy doing stuff that has nothing to do with purpose, then you're not going to be able to hear those things that God is saying to you. And then now you're upset by the return on your investment when you haven't invested in the right, you know, opportunities, you know, and things like that. So it's really that. I really believe, man, like your purpose requires a lot of sacrifice. Like I'm telling you, like, yo, there's days like I wake up and I'm like, yo, like I do not want to do this. Yo, I'm lonely. I want a girlfriend. I want this. I want that. But God is like, nah. You know, God is like, nah. You know, and then there's times where I forced it, and I'm like, there was no point of doing it because now there's you go out and you're on a date and then you guys have nothing in common. You know, they like you because you're brand. They like you because and they're not bringing something to the table that can flourish, that can turn into something. And that's because we're constantly forcing things. And I had to learn that even with jobs. When I used to be younger, I used to just go from job to job. Next pay raise.
Yeah.
What's gonna pay me better? To the point where God was like, yo, like you can do this all day and night. You're still not gonna be happy.
Yeah.
And when I figured that out, now I don't care when somebody says, hey, I get paid $27 an hour. I'm like, great, awesome, like amazing, dope, because it has nothing. That was the old me. Now when I see, when somebody sends me, my friends send me videos hanging out with girls at a bar or whatever the case, or at the club, I'm not fazed by it. I'm not like, oh, let me pull up. Well, no, because that was the old me. You feel me? Now I'm more secure, and I'm like, yo, like I gotta put these stuff in the bags. You feel me? These things gotta get shipped. I gotta do all I gotta check inventory. I gotta do all these things. But I promise you, like one thing that's amazing about like God and how He works is the more time you spend with God, the less the void just gets smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point where you're just like I'm humbled and I'm grateful that I get to be on a podcast, and I'm grateful that I'm able to donate money, that I'm grateful in all these different things. I'm grateful because I'm like, yo, like God, if I didn't take the time to spend time with you and thank you and love you and love the people around me, I would not be here. And all this is way better than anything else I could have done or imagined doing. So that's really it.
Yeah, I want, like, you just hit on something that, like, I think a lot of people who, let's say, want entrepreneurs, people who want to create something, they don't understand. Because I can tell you this, I did not understand. Mm-hmm. I did not understand how hard a podcast looked like. Mm-hmm. When God put it on my heart to create one, I was like, yo, one, it was interesting because, like, before I even started, God told me to get off of social media to create a better bond with them. And again, that starts with the getting closer to Him and creating a relationship. I've realized through this whole process is every time I try to chase the podcast and do things for the podcast, nothing ever works out. As soon as I take my mind off the podcast, I'm like, yo, God, like, I told you from the beginning, like, I don't want to do this unless you're leading the entire thing. Mm-hmm. So let me fast, whatever. So I believe in fasting because I feel like that's when someone's like telling you, hey, oh God, like, this is important, but my relationship with you is more important. I think people like want to do it just like to feel cool, but when I do it, it's almost for a specific reason. I just want to get closer to God. That's all it is. And so whenever I do that, then God opens up so much, and that's what I love about God. Like, He opens up doors when you're more focused on Him and building a relationship with Him than because He already knows what's on your heart and what you want, right? Like He put it in your heart, so He already knows it. So, but I want to like hit on the aspect of sacrifice, bro. Like for me right now, so I have a typical job, like a 9-to-5 job. I'm grateful because I got a really good job, but not only do I do that, but then after that, I'm trying to create content for like the podcast and what I want it to look like. Not only that, either writing either, I don't like to call them poems, but let's just say expressive writing to express myself, just writing in general, and just creating a bunch of other things. Like that's a sacrifice that I'm doing. Like also working. People think like when you become an entrepreneur, you have all this free time, but no, like you have to sacrifice a bunch of stuff. And for you were saying, like when people are sending you videos, you're like, yo, I gotta send these packages out somehow. Like somebody's gotta do it, right? Can you touch on like what sacrifice looks like for you, and like what does that mean, and what do people not understand about trying to create your own brand or whatever it is?
Yo, like I tell people this, yo, like honestly, like if you're becoming an entrepreneur for the money, don't do it. I promise you, don't do it because it's so it's so frustrating because 60% of the time how you want things don't go the way you want it to go, and I'm pretty sure you can relate to that.
Oh yeah.
So you're constantly, and that's why going back to being secure with yourself and being centered and knowing who you are in God is super important, because when it comes to things like this, like people think, oh, an entrepreneur or whatever the case is super dope and X, Y, and Z. No, because I'm waking up at like 6 a.m., replying back to text messages, replying back to DMs, making phone calls if needed, looking at designs, replying back to emails, doing all these different things, then going to manufacturers, doing all this different stuff, then going to meetings, getting on the phone, all these different things that are not fun.
Yeah.
Literally, they are not fun. You know.
Yeah.
Like and then yo, like when I tell you, oh my goodness, woo, y'all don't even understand. You feel me? So it's just like you don't like sometimes I envy people. I'm like, yo, no, I'm not saying I'm fully like I'm not fully entrepreneur. I'm like almost 60% of the way there. But I'm saying is I envy people that can just turn it off.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Like I'm like literally it takes me like 30 minutes or an hour just to fall asleep because stuff is running. Oh, you gotta wake up. Remember, you gotta do this. You gotta do that. Remember, you gotta send this out. Remember, somebody wants to set up an interview with you. Remember, like somebody wants to do this. Don't forget to call this person. Don't forget to reply back to this. Don't forget, our work needs to be done. Designs. Reach back to your photographer. All of these things are constantly running through my head. So it's the only thing that keeps me so focused and keeps me in line with what God wants me to do is the level of discipline that I have, the level of structure. So I knew 2 years ago that I wasn't going to be able to go out. I knew I wasn't going to be able to really date people. I knew I wasn't going to be able to I wasn't going to be able to be part of the scene the way everybody is. I couldn't be on Snapchat popping bottles back. There's certain I knew that, and I was like, okay, cool. I sat down. I was like, yo, you're gonna need to stop doing this. As soon as I figured that out, God was like, this is how we're gonna do this. So now I don't have personal pages. I only have business pages. So now you can't catch me doing nothing. I'm not tempted to DM a girl and be like, hey, let's do this. Oh, let's hang out. Because it's a business. So God, and that's how God works. He will tell you, yo, you can't have a personal page. You can't smoke weed. You can't have sex. you can't drink. You can't be here. You can. Even though you're cool and you're part of the scene and you're funny and blah blah blah, it's not for you right now. And so when I realized that, I was like, okay, cool, God, I'm gonna sacrifice all this, and I'm gonna focus on this. And it's the hardest thing is having friends that are having all this fun and having blast, and you're just in there in your room just you're over here sick, you're over here nauseous, but then that's when God is like talking to you like, hey, like, something amazing is happening, something is coming, something is this, something is that. Prepare the way you speak, prepare the way you tone, prepare the way you write, prepare all these different things, lead, to the point where it's like I remember when God was like, when I first started the brand, like 6 months in, God was like, I don't want you to post anything about you. Nothing about you unless you're interviewing somebody, unless you're giving away something, unless you're doing something that has to do with other people getting the credit, And I was like, oh damn, that's gonna be hard, man. Like, normally the CEO is at the front end. And God was like, nah. He's like, absolutely not. So I'm over here crying, but I'm over here deleting pictures. I'm over here deleting. When I tell you I'm over here deleting like posts of me with like 400 likes, all these different things. I was like, 300 over here, 400. I was just tears just falling down,
Yeah.
And God is like, let me get the credit. Let me get the glory. You just work.
Yeah.
Your time will come, let me get the glory. He would constantly say that, like, it's not about you, it's about them. It's not about you, it's about them. It's not you. The gift is not in you, the gift is in them,
Yeah.
And so things like that, when I first started, it was difficult, but now, like, fast forward, I have a brand that there's only one picture of me recently.
Yeah.
But that's because
that was for
a good reason, but at the same time, like, while I'm not getting distracted over here by likes and comments and things like that, God is over here speaking life into me, making me more secure, making me more patient, making me more consistent, making me more disciplined, making me more humble, giving me a stronger work ethic, giving me, more focus. So now it's just like things don't faze me, as when I was, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, or even 6 months ago, because I'm so excited, I'm so happy, and I'm so like, I'm like, yo, God, what are we doing next? How are we doing this? What do I need to delete my Instagram page? Well,
what's next? What do I
are doing this? Locally, but God shows you what you can do when you put your faith in Him.
Yeah.
So the whole mask thing, I'm gonna be real with you. I'm like, yo, I hope we sell we make $500 worth of masks in those 10 days. I didn't think we can do it, you know. But then God was like, bet, watch me work. You know,
see, that's God's so dope, bro.
And
yeah,
so when I was, and then that's what like told me, yo, like God was like, yo, you're thinking small. Yeah. Look what I can do. If I can do this in 10 days, if I can do this in 2 days, imagine what I can do in 10 days. You know, and so like. I wouldn't have been able to do all that. I wouldn't have been able to be like, yo, let's make this part of the community. Hey, let's focus on the people around us. Hey, let's focus on meeting the people that believe in us, you know, believe in the brand. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't centered with God, you know. I truly don't think I would have. I would have just been selling. I would have been selling clothes. I think I still would have been doing well, but I wouldn't be as impactful as I am now. Yeah. You know, and that's what I'm super thankful that I never gave up on what God, you know, the plans God had for my life. You know, I sacrificed and I dedicated hours and a lot of time into the man that I am today because I knew God wanted to use me. You know, and I knew if I didn't sacrifice that amount of time and this time that the times that I still have to sacrifice in the future, I wouldn't be able to do what God wanted me to do. Yeah. And I think that's my biggest fear is waking up one day and be like, damn, Andy, like God could have used you. Like you wasted all your 20s or you wasted all your 30s doing stuff that had no return,
no value.
You know, no value. You know. So yeah, man. Like sacrifice, it's not. Sacrifice is not a we thing. Sacrifice is like an I thing. Like, yo, I'm gonna do this and it's gonna hurt. You know. Yeah. And it's. Well, I'm telling you, it's not fun, man. It's not fun because I'm like. My biggest thing is like, because I struggled. I've like all men, bro. Like one area that I really struggled with was women. You know, women. You know,
Lord.
I super like struggled in the area of women. You know, because I'm young and I have the charisma, I have the style. Now I have the brand and all these different things. So I would just get caught up in stuff that I'm not supposed to be in. You know, and I'm like, yo, you know, and God is like, you're not supposed to be doing this. This is not your wife. Like, this is not your girlfriend. Like. You're gonna regret it, you know. So it's just like you get caught up on all these different things, you know, and you're like, yo, like, man, it gotta get to a point where you gotta be like, yo, like none of this matters, you know, like none of this matters, like, you know, and I got to the point when I'm like, man, like I got tired. You feel me? Like you ever get to the point where like you're just like tired and you're like, yo, like I've tried everything, I've exhausted every option, I've like, you know the saying, like a blessing at the wrong time is not a blessing at all. And I was like, we live in this culture where like, oh, I'm gonna try to fix somebody. You know, I was always like, this girl right here, this is her problem. She like going clubbing. I'm gonna take care of this because I don't go clubbing. So she gonna be like, oh, this is a real man. X, Y, and Z. Fail. You know. So you know, so I'm like, you're spending all this time trying to fix people when God's like, that's not your job. Your job is to love on people. Your job is to be there for people, and your job is to make sure people matter. Your job is not try to fix things just because you know more than somebody, just because you're doing better than somebody, just because you're more creative than somebody, just because you can make somebody feel a certain way inside. That doesn't mean you're meant for them. You know. And I had to realize that because I was like, because I had a rule. I was like, yo, I'm not. We could do everything, but I'm not dating you. That was my rule, you know. Because I was like, hey, I don't. One thing that I didn't want to do because I knew the amount of sacrifice it takes and the amount of time what I do takes is like I don't want to make somebody feel neglected, you know. I don't want to make somebody feel lonely. I don't want to make somebody feel like they didn't matter because I'm too busy focused on my business and I'm investing a lot of time in my business and I'm doing my business and business because it takes up a lot of time, you know. So I would tell people like, yo, like this is a deal. Like I can't date. But if you want us to hang out and stuff like that, I'm cool with that. But like there's no dating is not an option, you know. Yeah. And so I was like, and then God was like, nah.
Yeah, no.
Like, you can't do that.
Yeah, not at all.
Even if somebody like, and that's funny because. And that's why going back to like appreciating and valuing our women, like I had to relearn that. Yeah. Because I've never called a girl out of her name. I've never mistreated somebody. I've never put my hands on a female. I've never disrespected a female. I've never done anything that most men would do. Never. Yeah. You know. But God was like, yeah, just because you're good to them, that don't mean that you can do whatever you want to them. You know? And I was like, yo, I was like, and I'm going back and forth with God. I'm like, God, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't party. Like, can I have this?
Just one thing,
Can I have, and that's how. And that's crazy because we walk with God and we sometimes we get in the mindset of we feel entitled to something because we're sacrificing all these different things. And God's like, no, you're not. Like, that's not, like, this will be the death of you if you keep doing this. You know, like you see what happened to David. When you know, he went from having sex to killing somebody to his son dying to all these different things because of one thing. You know, so even though we have the opportunity as men, to speak life into women and to do all these things, we still gotta watch ourselves and we still gotta hold ourselves to a high standard. And letting them know, like, yo, like, yeah, you feel a certain way about me, but I don't feel the same way, and so, but let's be friends. You know, let's. How can I invest in your business? How can I teach you about something? How can we do this? How can we do that? You know, and build the people around you. So at least, you know, the next opportunity this young lady gets, you know, that is an opportunity that you were able to help her with as a man. You know, you like, okay, this is what a man's supposed to do. This is what a man's supposed to do. This is how a man's supposed to treat you. You know, you're creating the opportunity for her. But if we're using our gifts, and our talents to take advantage of women just because, and at the end of the day, like Seth, it's like you're not taking advantage of somebody, but at the same time you are. You know, and that's the scary part. Because you're like, yo, I'm not abusing you, I'm not mistreating you, I'm not buying you. It's not like I'm not buying you dinner. It's not like I'm not dropping you off. It's not like I'm not doing all these different things. You know. But at the same time, God is like, you can't. Listen, you're living a two-faced life. And it's like, I think we really like as Christians, we just have to be more honest in the situation that we're in. You know. And I think I think where the church really like failed us is we so focused on the love and God is good and God is great and I'm praying for you, that we don't really try to fix broken people, or we don't try to help broken people figure out why they're behaving the way they do, you know? And because I spent most of my life in church, and one thing I realized is nobody ever really asked me, "How, Andy, like, what's really going on?" Like, nobody really held me accountable. Everybody was like, "Oh, you're gonna be great. You're an amazing young man," but they didn't know I was out here running through girls, or I was out here doing wild stuff, you know? Because they, you know, like, and that's the problem with churches nowadays, you know? It's like we're so in the. I don't think it's nowadays. I just think church is such a place where it's like we just try to focus on the positive things, no negative things. We don't want to know what you're doing at home. We don't want to know that you're having sex, you're drinking, or you blacked out drinking. We don't want to know that. We just want to know that you're here, and that, you know, that you're smiling, and that God is good, you know. And I think as Christians, we fell into that realm of like, oh, cool, you know, like, if they say I'm okay, then I'm okay. This is like, there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. God forgives, you know. God's grace is on my life. Cool, you know. When we don't hold ourselves accountable, you know. When we don't hold ourselves accountable, God can't use us, you know. But
because I feel like people, a lot of like when it comes to Christianity, like, it's more of like how do you look on the outside?
Yeah, exactly.
How are you presenting yourself? Like, that's really what we care about technically. Like, because as long as you look good, then you're fine. There's nothing really wrong. But like, that's no one really like, and it's sad because that's not how Christ was like when he came here. He literally came to fix like the brokenness and the hurting and the people that were in pain, the people who felt lonely. Like, that's who he was targeting. He didn't care about the people that were doing fine. So why is it that we focus so much on the people that look good? Like, we celebrate those people. Oh man, you look so beautiful. Like, you're singing you're singing in the choir. You're singing for God, but on the weekend you are here. You're doing what you gotta do, man. Like, and it blows my mind when it comes to that aspect, man. But
the amazing thing about God is, like, when you stay close to God, and I mean close, and not in like the cliche, like, I was like, because I used to be like that, yo. Like, I used to be like, oh man, like, I'm not doing nothing wrong. I've been going to church since I was 8 years old, you know. And I'm like, yo, I'm not doing nothing wrong. But like, the older I got, and you know, when I got into the real world, and I seen how the real world is, it's like yo, like you start to realize, man, like you're not as close to God as you think you are.
Not at
You
all.
know? And I realized that, and I was like, yo, Andy, you don't know God like you thought you knew God, you know? Because every time something happened, I didn't know how to handle it. Every time something happened, I didn't know how to I didn't know how to put it into words, or I didn't know how to talk to God about it, or I didn't know how to face it, or I didn't know how to do anything. You know, I just kept, you know, sweeping it under the rug, sweeping it under the rug. So I think it's like, and I think that and that's why I say going back to it's our responsibility on a daily basis
Right.
to have that one-on-one with God, to be like, yo, like where am I at? Like what am I doing? What do you want me to do? Like, you know, where are we at? You know, and if we don't do that and we're too busy, like we and I think we fall in, and I used to be like this. So I used to fall in the trap of like, oh, quoting Bible verses, posting Bible verses, and doing all these different things, listening to gospel music in the background on my Snapchat. And God's like, "What are you doing, my guy? What are you doing?" But you don't want to post those, like you don't want to post what happened Saturday night, you know, like, you know.
Exactly.
And I got to the point where I was like, yo, like everybody knew Andy the designer, you know, Andy the amazing person, Andy this, Andy that. Nobody really knew what I was doing, you know, because I never, you know, I call it sinning in private, you know.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you know, I call it like most people will like flex about it, and that's going back to like our mentors. Like we think we're doing God a favor, you know, and God's like, no, you're not doing nobody a favor. Because I was like, because as a creative, I always find creative ways to sin, you know. so I was like, yo, if I do sleep around with girls, but I don't tell anybody, I've mastered. You feel me? I've mastered. You know?
Did I really
like,
do it?
Yeah. Did I really do anything? Because I'm like, most men are saying all these different things. They're flexing. They're sending nude pictures to their friends. Be like, yo, look what I did last night. Blah blah blah. I was like, I'm doing none of that. I don't call girls out of their name. If they say, yo, I want to go let's go get some food. I take them to dinner. I'm being nice. You feel me? I'm calling them an Uber. I'm not telling them. You know? I'm doing all these kind things. I'm treating them like. They're my girlfriend, but they're not my girlfriend, you know. So I'm thinking I'm doing them a favor. God's like, you're playing yourself, you know. But then like the older I got, especially like turning 25 this year, in April, I was like, yo, like Andy, like you literally, man, you got the next 5 years to pull it together. And you no more. No more two-sided. No more. I'm doing this. No more. Andy's this on the weekend, but Andy's, the CEO of Black Noise Monday through Friday. No, like. Figure out what you really want to do with this, because your choices, especially in the women's sector, is going to be the death of you. I'm telling you, I was listening to Kanye West, one of Kanye West's song, I think it's called FML. I don't know if you heard that song.
Yeah.
But he was like, I need to stop messing with these girls before they take half of what I own. You know. And when I heard that part, I was like, oh damn, that's God speaking. I was like, because I was really thinking about, I was like, yo, like Andy, like you might at a young age you might not see what it can be, but there's people in the background. There's people that can see your potential, but they're just waiting for you to slip up, to take your fruit, or to take what God put in your life. You know. So you have to be able to realize where you're not supposed to be, you know. You have to be able to realize that you need to figure out, especially women, you gotta figure it out, Andy, because they're gonna be the reason why you either succeed or you fail. But the only reason you're gonna succeed with them is if you walk with me, and the only way you're gonna fail is if you continue to do what you're doing, thinking that you know.
Before we end things, I want you to kind of share more a little bit about, because we kind of went on a different tantrum, which is I really love and I appreciate it. But like, I want you to kind of share what's going on with Black Noise. What does that look like? Because I know we're having a summer clothing line coming out pretty soon here. Tell people a little bit about that. Where can they find you at? What website can they go to go get an order for Black Noise hat or clothing or whatever it is? Tell the people a little bit about Black Noise right now.
So thank you for bringing that up. I totally forgot about it. But so we do have our summer collection dropping pretty soon. So it's called the BLM Summer Collection 2020. So Black Lives Matter summer collection. So the focus of the shoe, the focus of this collection is to go a little bit more in depth of what's going on in our country, you know, and how we're trying to bring awareness with what's going on in our country and what's going on with like police brutality, and not systematic oppression, systematic racism, and just bringing awareness to the lack of leadership in our country. So that's the main focus of the collection, which we want to drop, and hopefully we're wrapping everything up. So we want to drop it by the 15th of this month.
Right.
That's the goal. And it's a lot of amazing things, and I just like how we truly took the time, and that's why the delay was so long, because we're trying to tell a story with this one. And it's like bringing awareness and saying, hey, like, this is what's happening to our people, this is what's going on, and that we're still going to stay strong, that we're still going to work together, and that we're still going to come out on top. A few places that you can find me is obviously my IG page. So black_noise. So the black is BLX as an X-ray, CK _noise, NOISE. The website is blacknoiseapparel.com. Twitter, black_noise. IG, Snapchat, same thing. No, Snapchat is black noise, one word, and TM for trademark. So that's where you can find us. But yeah, we're super excited, man. I think this is gonna take us, a little bit towards a different direction. So this is one of the samples that I have on for the collection that's dropping in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Obviously, this is the one for me, so it's not gonna be on there. But it's just an example. But yeah, man, we're super excited, man, because I think as a community we're starting to work together to bring awareness to these causes. And we have responsibility as individuals to speak up, and not to only just post, but to go out there and march, to sign petitions, to, if we have access to donating to these organizations and these causes, to obviously donate, and to actually get to experience these things, because it's dope posting, but when you actually get to go out there and see what your people are fighting for, and see how tomorrow can look if we work together, it's so much more amazing, and you get to really understand why it's important to cultivate your gift, and why it's important to dedicate your gift to the community, so everybody around your community can prosper. So that's what we're trying to do with this collection. Is like, mass awareness is the goal, but at the same time bringing awareness to what can happen when we work together.
Nice. I love it. All right, so last little bit here, man. The purpose of this podcast is to create space for people to come here, share their stories, and motivate someone, man. So for the little last segment, what is something that you could say to the audience right now to help motivate them, to make them push a little bit harder? They're literally on that brink of like, I want to give up, I don't want to do it no more, I want to stop trying to chase this dream because of whatever's happened. What is some advice that you would give to them to give them that little extra nudge or push to make you keep going?
So my 3 life principles is God one, family second, and the rest is business, So I truly think, man, one, if you stay close to God, right, just stay close to God. The second thing is, your only job is to be kind, and God is going to do the rest. Right. So as long as you're kind to people and you make people feel like they matter, God is going to take care of the rest, So that's really the only thing I can really suggest. So if you're in a situation where you feel like giving up, or you feel like you're not understanding your purpose, or you don't know what your purpose is, go back to the source, go back to God, listen to God, take, fast, put yourself in a situation where God could speak to you, and then go back to the most simplest thing is be kind to people, right, and make people feel like they're mattered. And through that, that's where God really works. So that's what I really believe, and those are the only 2 things that I truly live by,
Well, man, I really do appreciate you for coming on the show, bro. Like, for real, man. Like, thank you for taking the time.
Yo, Seth is awesome for doing this. Like, it takes a lot of courage, and I'm so proud of him. And I can't wait to one day look back and be like, yo, I was on his podcast, and I got to, partake in the opportunity of building a community with him, which he's doing amazingly. So make sure you guys tune in, make sure you guys listen, and make sure that you guys are supporting him in any kind of way, whether it's sharing, whether it's liking, whether it's supporting him. Honestly, we can't do this without each other. So please, however you can, use the people around you. And I'm not talking about like using in a crazy way. I'm talking about use as in like learn how to cultivate the people around you and learn how to build together. Because if we can do that, then we're gonna have an amazing future for all of us.
100% agree. Appreciate it, man.
No problem.
And as always, man, God loves you. I love you. God bless and stay safe. Thank y'all. Love y'all. Peace. Hey, what's up, y'all? If y'all stayed and watched the entire video, clearly you're intrigued with the content. If you haven't already, I would love for you guys to subscribe, like, share, comment below. I would love to get engaged with you guys, what you guys like, what you guys didn't like. Hey, but as always, man, I want to remind you guys, God loves you, I love you, God bless, and stay safe. Thank y'all, love y'all, peace.